the way that we grow as professionals and also in our own private lives is by listening to others give us feedback. This is true in our own private lives. When I was growing up as a younger teen, my first job was washing pots and pans, and there was a particular way of doing that. And there was a particular way of sterilizing those pots and pans. And I got feedback early on about how to do it well and make sure that it was the best that I could be. And of course, that feedback continued through my life. And clearly for all of us, we are where we're at because we have had mentors, coaches, individuals that cared enough for each of us to give us the particular insight to write in our papers where we had perhaps expressed it in less optimal ways. And so we have become the professionals who we are because somebody took the time to give us the insight, the feedback, and the particular correction perhaps that we needed. And so today, as teachers, as scholars that we are here at ADU, at Health Science Institution, feedback is paramount. Think about the times that you have taken your students to the clinical sites to observe them relating to a patient or a family, or doing a particular procedure, you gave immediate feedback. And those students learned from you how to do the procedure or the words that they expressed, how to do it in a way that exemplified the best practice that you were trying to teach. We also do it when students write papers or when they do oral presentations. We give them feedback because through that feedback, they grow. They learn what to do and what not to do. Here at ADU, through the Formative Dialogues, we are instituting an initiative that all of us will participate in. That is, receiving and giving feedback to each other in the classroom. We want this process to be fun, to be a process where each of you develops relationships, where we learn from each other, where we develop an openness and a receptiveness to hearing from the other colleague how you might have done a particular lecture differently or better, or how you might have engaged the students better in the classroom. And so for all of us at ADU moving forward, we want to embrace the idea that feedback is a gift, because it is a gift that pays off time and time again, making us a stronger and better institution to educate our young people to live out the values of Christ.
I appreciate you taking the time to do my formative dialogue.
Me too. I'm looking forward to it. How can I help?
So, sometimes people just want a big overview of teaching. And I want, certainly if you see me doing some weird things, like moving my hands around too much, then make certain that you let me know.
Sure.
But I really have a focus for this formative dialogue.
Okay, and what is that goal?
Well, primarily it's how I can engage students that I don't know. So in my current teaching role, I'm teaching a lot of different classes. And so a lot of times I may do just one lecture or maybe 2 lectures with a group of students that I've never met before. But I still want to be able to actively engage them. And I have trouble doing that. I want them all to be engaged. And so what I find is you always have those couple who are just raising their hands, and you automatically go to them. But I want to make certain I'm connecting with the entire class.
Okay. I'll make sure I watch out for that, and I look forward to seeing you teach.
All right, thank you. You've got me for the day, and this is going to be interactive. I recently had what was called a formative dialogue in one of my lectures when I was teaching nursing students. And my goal was to be able to interact with the students and figure out ways that I could when I don't know everyone and I don't just want to pick on Abdul and Juan. That just would not be fair. So I have your pictures, and I'll be asking you questions, but let's lay the ground rules. There's no wrong answer, and you can always phone a friend. That's the rules in here, okay? So we're talking point of care ultrasound. That is ultrasound that is done for a specific reason. We do it all the time. And do you have all sense? We just answer all the answer. It helps you right here for the rest of the day. And so we're going to start with basics to help you as we do more ultrasound. We just need the next term. Yay. And we can't talk about ultrasound. We talk just a little bit about physics. And the crowd goes wild. Yeah, we're different. But you know, ultrasound, medical ultrasound was really out of sonar. And sonar was first used during World War I, and it was finding home where it became more sophisticated in World War II. And from that, medical ultrasound was developed. It was used in research phases in the late 1950s. And even in the 1980s, when I first started doing ultrasound, we still were trying to prove our worth and our utility. And since then, it's just exploded and it's used a lot now. So as we look at medical ultrasound, we're not necessarily we use high frequency sound waves. And so there's infrasound, that's below the hearing range, and then there's audible range, you guys are in the audible range, and then there's ultrasound, which is also above the audible range of sound. Bats use sonar, dolphins use sonar, and it's all based on pulse crystal. The sound is out, it hits structures, comes back, the ultrasound sheet calculates the distance it takes for the sound to hit the structure, come back, and that's how we get that display of abnormal and normal anatomy. Now, sound has to have a media in which to propagate. And so if you put sound, like we all use our phones for our today.
First of all, thank you for letting me observe in your classroom. I really enjoyed the opportunity. What were your reflections based on your teaching the other day?
Well, first of all, just having you sit in the back of the classroom was terrifying. Here I am lecturing to the students, and it's hard not to have an awareness that you're sitting back there, and then all of a sudden I saw you taking notes, and I'm thinking, oh no, what did I do wrong?
But also from my side, when I'm sitting there writing, there are so many positives that I could write down, that's what I was writing down, and maybe coming up with some ideas that I could contribute from my experience to help you out in your teaching. So first of all, I appreciate your humor. Your ability to make students laugh and to start off with a laugh really breaks the tension and reduces the anxiety for the students, and I think for us as instructors as well, to kind of, okay, get that out of the way, get the laughter, the nervous energy out of the way. I also appreciate how you were able to communicate at the students' level, recognizing kind of where they were at and speak to them in terms that they could really understand. You talked about the physics of ultrasound. I may have an understanding of that from my clinical practice as well in PT, but for those students who've never had that exposure before, I think your ability to break it down and teach it to them was phenomenal. To address your goal, one of your goals was to ensure that patients and students are engaged in the practice, in your teaching. One thing that's really worked for me in my teaching is providing cards, numbered cards. Say we have 24 students, 1 through 24, and individual cards to those students. I have my own stack of 24 cards, and if I have a question, I have a student pull one of my cards. Whoever has number 7 then has to answer the question. Sure, they have the opportunity to phone a friend or ask for help, but still it provides some randomization about who gets pulled into the conversation. Once that number is pulled, I stick that number right back in because it tends to keep that student engaged. If number 7, whoever that lucky number 7 was, got their number set aside, they may drift and leave the conversation, leave the lecture in mind at least. By putting them back in, it keeps them engaged throughout the process. Funny, in an instance, I had one person get drawn 4 times. She was drawn 4 times in the same lecture, and it became a point of humor for the class, but it also kept her engaged and kept other students on point.
I love the idea of handing out cards and the fact that it would randomize. I know sometimes in my classroom where I know my students, I go around and I just go around the classroom, and that also allows me to go back to Denver and not forget that Denver's back there on the flat screen, but to be able for the students to know that it is going to be randomized and it holds them accountable. They never know when they're going to be chosen. I am definitely going to try that in the next time I lecture to a class of students I don't know.
Awesome. I think another positive that I saw was your ability to answer questions. You gave them the opportunity to ask questions, and then you answer those questions at a level that they could understand, and then you ensured that they actually understood it. Did I answer your question? Do you have any follow-up questions based on my response? So you gave very good feedback based on their questions that they were able to ask. Another thing, back to your point and your goals, about understanding your students and making sure that students are engaged. When I teach physical therapy, I know what my students are coming in the door with. I know what's expected of them. But if I'm teaching in another program, say if I was going to teach in a nursing class, for instance, I may not understand or know exactly what they're coming in the door with. So maybe by using a pre-test, which I've used before, it helps in a couple different ways. One, it gives me an idea of the content that they're familiar with, It also gives them an idea of what the objectives for that lecture are for that day, and kind of keeps us both on task, giving me an assessment of the student, giving them an idea of what's important pre and post.
I can see using polling for that, and I think that would be a great idea. Well, you've given me some terrific things to take and put in my toolbox for my next classroom.